You know what, Paul? We're live. It's Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. I'm better known as the Gouche.
I'm better known as Rosie.
You know, I'm up in my office here and I had CNN on, so I wanted to turn it off. How are they going there?
The home office at Gouche Manor.
The Gouche Manor, which will be moving soon. So, hey, listen, before we get started, I know I showed you this earlier, but I want everybody that's joining us, I'm going to show it in a few seconds, what just came in the mail today. Pretty cool.
Wow, I'm loving it. Let's see it. I'm loving it. Can't wait to put it on.
All right, here it is. Look at this. Okay.
Love the logo.
Number, and look at that at the back.
And I love the microphones in the 5.7.
See it?
Wow. You know, people always ask me, why 57? It doesn't make sense. Do I love ketchup? And I said, no. My 3 kids' birthdays added up to 57, and I was always away. I missed a ton of their birthdays, so that's why 57.
That's a very, very good reason, buddy.
Why do you wear 29, Gouche?
A very good question. I started out with 14, ended up with 33, and my buddy's favorite number, Robert Velfor, was 29, which he wasn't a goalie. And I just, when I went over to Europe, I think I wore it in Thunder Bay. I'll have to remember. I don't recall if I wore it in Thunder Bay. When I went to Germany, I took 29.
I wore 25.
I wasn't even a goalie.
I wore 25 most of the time because I love Peter Zezel, but then 57 just before Torino for my kids.
Okay.
And that's it. Hey, Paul Rosen.
I don't know. That's a really good question.
Look at Robert Wyan. Hey, Paul Rosen, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm here. And Kerry Goulet, let's see if the streak that was set for no tech issues continues. Thanks, Robert. You don't have to be quiet, buddy. We love you.
Be loud. Hey, Martin's just on. It's the same number as Patrick Sagow from Timmendorf. Now, did Patrick Sagow wear 15? Sorry, 57 or 29? We're asking you that, Martin Williams.
Yeah.
We've got our big buddy in the green room, Christian Hanson. He's on in the second period. You know who's on in the third?
Dave Hanson. My brother is excited to ask Dave a question because there was a buddy of my brother's who he went to school with at C.W. Jeffries who was in Slapshot, and he's going to ask Dave a question.
Okay, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Martin Williams says 57. I don't know what that means.
So very good player in Timmendorf where I played.
Yeah.
He wore 57. So
cool.
Yeah. And then, okay, so before we get into seeing our buddy Christian Hansen, let's go into the first period. I want to talk about the slap shot a little bit. There are 8 things that I found on the Facebook that we can maybe talk to Dave about the movie.
Okay.
You're saying there were 3, I thought 4.
I thought there was 3. Really, there was just the 1, but the other ones were whatever. There could have been 4. I don't know. I only watched the first one. The others were brutal.
True. Don't say that to Dave. I think he thought they were great. Listen, Wendy McCurry's on. Hi, Wendy, saying hello to you and me. So let's find out. Okay, listen to this one. 8. We'll go through them quickly. Al Pacino as Reg Dunlop. It's true. Pacino expressed that he regretted missing out on the film. It's hard to imagine anyone other than Paul Newman as the lead. But if Pacino could lace him up, he would have been in the face of the franchise. What do you think?
I love Pacino, but Newman was Reg Dunlop.
Hey, get me the puck. How's that for a Pacino impersonation?
Hey, they got dinky toys.
Yeah, it wouldn't go over. I think it'd be a little bit different. All right, NHL talent in Charleston. Before making his way to NHL, Bruce Boudreau, who coached Washington, Anaheim, and currently, well, he's no longer with Minnesota, made a stop in Charleston. The movie opted to use players from the Johnstown Chiefs. So he didn't get to go in the movie.
Wow. Cool.
The language broke barriers. At that time, a lot of people were using the F words. And in that movie, man, did they use the F-bomb.
Yeah.
You know why?
It sounded great.
No, yeah, true. But no, they just wanted to have the real feel of a dressing room. Do you guys swear that much in the dressing room?
Oh, my God. the four-letter word to me was my Bible in the dressing room. It's all I said.
Puck?
People that know me and see me when I do live TV, they don't understand how I could turn that part of myself off. And I said, it's very simple. Swear once on live TV, you don't get on live TV again. So turn it off.
One of the famous lines in the movie, Trey be right.
Now.
Okay, listen. The opening scene was incorrect. We're going to ask Dave Hanson this.
Okay.
Spoken in broken English, Chiefs goalie Denny Lemieux, Yvonne Barrett, was live on Sports Talk to help fans understand the details of hockey. In an interview with Charleston sports anchor and play-by-play man Jim Carr, Andrew Duncan, Lemieux tries his best to demonstrate and inform the fans of certain penalties. While the scene was comedic, and set the tone for the rest of the movie, Dave Hanson reports that Lemieux botched the job. You believe that? I can't believe that, but
No,
yeah, I will give it to him.
Well,
As the scene takes place, Lemieux clearly mistakes hooking for slashing, cross-checking for high-sticking, and butt-ending for spearing. Hanson joked, that's what happens when you get a goaltender to explain the
whoa, Dave.
rules of hockey. He's not far off. Not too far off. We're going to ask him about that. The pranks were prevalent. Arguably, Slapshot's greatest characters, the Hanson brothers, didn't shy away from a fight or beating up a Coke machine in the movie. Hanson's and the Carlson brothers stirred the pot on and off the ice. They filled Newman's portable sauna with popcorn, but baby powder in hair dryers, put baby powder in hair dryers, and engaged in tomfoolery. It's clear when the trio were on the ice, you always had to have your eyes open and off the ice. So they're saying they actually filled Paul Newman's sauna with popcorn. We're going to ask him if that's true.
Sounds cool.
I didn't see that in the movie.
I did some crazy things to teammates on the road. We can't talk about them, though.
True. Actors sustained injuries during the shootout. Doing a shoot. Hockey players are tough, and actors portraying hockey are no different. Newman injured his groin muscle during a skirmish in the penalty box. Wow, Hanrahan, you know that guy, and many players, actors, cuts, bruises, and blemishes. We're going to ask Dave about that because I heard there was a little bit of a fight. Also behind the scenes, you can read in Jonathan Jackson's novel, The Making of Slapshot, behind the scenes of the greatest movie at all. So if you go and get Jonathan Jackson novel, The Making of Slapshot, behind the scenes, you can get some of these things. And the final one, Paul Newman did not like the movie officially.
Yeah.
Said it was the worst movie he ever did until he saw the money coming in from his royalties. He changed that tune really quickly.
Yeah, changed his mind.
So we'll ask Dave that too. What are your thoughts on that?
He's entitled. You know, he's a big-time movie star, but he was 100% wrong because that was a great movie, man. We watched it on the bus all over the world traveling.
Absolutely.
It was like the wedding. What was the one with Farley? Oh my God, what was his name?
That one.
Will Ferrell. What was that one? Wedding Crashers?
Yes.
Wedding Crashers and Slapshot were played so much on our team bus, I was ready to jump.
Well, when we took the Hanson brothers over for a couple of events to Germany, everybody knew their lines.
Yeah.
They watched that movie more than any other sports movie. In Germany, it's the #1 sports movie.
Cool. What's Slapshot in German? How do you say it?
Schlagschuss.
Oh.
I'll give you in a few minutes. Marcus Hookway. Grüße aus Eschweiler. He was a big fan of mine, and I was a big fan of yours when I played at Eschweiler. First place I ever played in Germany. All right, you know what time it is?
Yep. Rosie's
ready. Then we're going. Then we're going to see our buddy.
Okay, strap in again. I am fed up, absolutely fed up with people, scammers. I saw something on the news early this morning, how the senior citizens in this world right now are being scammed because they're afraid. They're afraid of COVID. They're afraid of getting ill. They're afraid of dying. That there's scammers right now phoning seniors and getting them through fear to donate money for different causes to get them to feel safer, to have products sent to them that are going to allow them not to get sick. It's absolute garbage. We have to take care of our senior citizens. I am absolutely honored to be living right now in my sister's house with my dad, the greatest human being in the world. If we do not take care of our senior citizens right now through this virus, we are unbelievably terrible people. Unbelievably terrible people. Come on, people. Enough of this. If you know somebody who's doing that scamming, stop it. Call the police immediately. Stop scamming seniors, you son of a beep. Done.
It could be the next version of Slapshot.
Sure.
We get Dave doing that with the, you know what I'm talking about, kid?
Yes.
All right, here he is, the one and only, the only one that I know that's named Christian Hanson. I'll tell you what, good-looking dude. He looks like a movie star. Oh, his dad was a movie star. So we'll ask him about that. How do you grow up being Christian Hanson and not being a movie star, but he looks like one? Hey, pretty good hockey player.
Yeah, hey, played in the show.
Yes, he did. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, if he moves over. Good look. Hey, what's going on with the beard? You're looking good. It's not playoff time, kid.
It's quarantine time.
Yeah?
Quarantine.
Hey,
Do you hear Paul Rosen?
Christian, hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Rosie. How you doing?
Good. Long time, buddy.
Yeah.
You got that hat on because it's just quarantine hair today or what?
No, the kid's got flowing hair.
Oh, I love that hat.
He's got flowing hair.
Representing my alma mater, Notre Dame.
You got it.
Hey, you remember the last time we saw each other? That was a few years ago, and Gouche and I, we put a bet together to lose weight. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I've gone from 265 when I saw you that day to 180, and Gouche has gone from 240 to 250.
Did he ever pay up?
No. That's a little harsh. I am not 250. I'm 243.
Okay.
So that's a little harsh because I was 244 yesterday. Hey, listen, at least I'm working out, running, getting in shape.
I'm proud of you.
Going to get rid of the man bra. Hey, listen, we got a lot of people saying hello. Tobis Martin, we're going to talk to him where he brought the Hanson brothers. Christian wasn't there. Hanson brothers to a brewery, and we had some fun. So we'll talk about that with Dave. Let's get into Christian. Brian Burke, tell us the story, kid. You ended up in the NHL, and you should have.
Brian Burke was the GM that signed me, and he is a great individual. Had the pleasure to play for him, not only for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but as well for World Championships with Team USA in 2010. And I have nothing but great things to say about Berkey. The great thing about him is you always know where you stand in his book. He's a straight shooter, and he's very honest, and he's one of those people that you know where you are, you know what you get with them, and I think that speaks volumes about him in today's day and age.
So you're a fighting Irish, eh? That's where you come from. Do you like Guinness?
I do. Don't ask me that question.
Paul, that establishes that he's Irish. Before you ask a question here, Paul, you know what? We forgot our stuff, so we got to work on that. Big hello from Craig Eilish from Chicago. He heard that Newman's movie was his favorite. We're going to get back to you on that. But first, we want to ask Christian this question. Will the Toronto Maple Leafs ever win the Stanley Cup? I'm going to leave you to talk about that because I know you're a big Toronto Maple Leaf fan, right, Paul?
No, I'm not at all. I'm a Blackhawk fan. I can't stand
You're not?
it. You know that. Why do you do this?
Why do you do this? Just to make you feel happy. No, seriously, Christian, talk about the experience of being a Leaf because that, Brian Burke took a good chance of taking you and you did not let him down. Tell us about the feeling of being in Toronto. Obviously, everybody thinks it's the Mecca of hockey.
It was amazing. It is the Mecca of hockey. It's one of those cities that when I first signed, I was told it's very similar to being a New York Yankee with Major League Baseball, being a Dallas Cowboy with the NFL, the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NHL. It is an amazing organization because everybody knows the Toronto Maple Leafs. Day in and day out, you're talked about. The first story on SportsCenter in Canada, whether you had a game the night before practice or even an off day, it's something that everybody has a vested interest one way or the other with the Leafs.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what, Christian, I want to ask you a question, and I want this for the young guys out there that are, going through the virus right now and, getting ready for the draft and, that they've got those dreams to play in the NHL. Let's go back to that first game. The first game you ever played in the NHL, you're getting ready, all those dreams and all those hard-working hours. You step on the ice for the first time. Go back and tell all of our audience what it was like first time you stepped on the ice.
It was a pretty surreal moment. It was a dream come true, and it's something that it's not a linear path to the NHL. It's definitely has its ups and its downs. I mean, I didn't get drafted. I was supposed to be drafted in the NHL heading into my freshman year at Notre Dame. Was not drafted. So it's one of those situations where you're going to have your ups and your downs, and as long as you continue to persevere and believe in yourself, even when everybody else doesn't believe in you, there's always that opportunity.
So, you go, Paul?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Val just threw up. You scored your first goal against Martin Berger.
Oh, I was going to ask that question.
Okay.
I was going to ask him.
Well,
no.
I wanted to show you Gouche. Like, yeah. I'm a man of my word.
Yeah.
I foiled.
Wrong movie. Well, he wasn't part of that movie.
I know, but I foiled up.
No, but he wrong guy.
I know.
So my question, thanks for ruining my next question to Christian Hanson. I was going to say, do you remember who you scored your first goal against?
I didn't score many, so yeah, I do remember my first, my second, and my third.
Well, I know that Paul's a really good friend with Martin Berger. Tell us about that, because I'll tell you what, arguably one of the greatest goaltenders of all time, and your first goal has to be against him. Tell us about that. How did it happen?
One of the coolest things about that is I was born in upstate New York and grew up as a goalie until we moved to Pittsburgh in 1995. So growing up in upstate New York, the only team that we got on TV was the New Jersey Devils. And being a goalie, I kind of migrated towards the goalie as my favorite player, who was Marty Brodeur. So it was kind of neat to come full circle that growing up, my favorite player in the NHL was Martin Brodeur, and then I scored my first NHL goal against Marty. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, and he's a great goalie, one of the best. I want to ask you about playing for your country. I had the chance to play in 3 Olympics for Canada. Gouche, I think you have put a jersey on for Canada before.
Yeah, and then they told him to take it off. It was in brick, wasn't it? He tried it on.
It was in brick.
Take it off.
He put the Canadian jersey on at Sports Check, and they asked him to take it off.
It was too tight, number one. No, it was actually in jail. But
what was it like?
You guys continue on.
Putting the American jersey on, what's the feeling?
A big sense of pride. That was the only time I ever played internationally for Team USA. So it was something that meant a lot. It was my first time, and it was the only time that I was able to play for Team USA. And it's something special. You really feel like you're representing your country as a whole.
So we've got a bunch of comments online here. One's coming from Kevin Shea. I think you answered this question already about your first game in Toronto and how Martin Gerber had him to lead the pregame skate. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Tell us about that.
So my first NHL game when I was with the Leafs, we were playing in Philadelphia, and right before the horn goes off for warm-ups, Martin Gerber came over and hit me on the shin pads, told me to lead the team out for warm-ups. And I said, Gerbs, appreciate that, but I'm good. Just trying to blend in. Don't want to ruin anybody's ritual. And I had Brad May on one side of me and Jamal Mayer on the other, who between the two of them had thousands of penalty minutes. And Mayday, I think, was at game number 998 at the time. He hit me on the shin pad, and a few of those 4-letter words that you guys were talking about earlier, he let out. And moral of the story was I got up and I led us out onto the ice for warm-ups and went out there, hopped on the ice, made a hard right, put a puck on net, turned around. I was the only guy on the ice for both teams, and there was probably 15,000 Flyers fans in the arena already, with Jay-Z blaring over the loudspeaker, and both teams and the refs were all on the benches sharing a good laugh as everybody kind of heckled me, and came off the ice at the end of the game, and I saw my dad with a big smile on his face, and he just kind of chuckled and said, "Welcome to the NHL."
Is it? Oh, sorry, go Paul.
I just had the same thing. First international game in Norway, the guys did the same thing to me. I went on, and I was a backup at that time. I went on first and started skating around in my sled and looked back, and there was nobody there.
Always a pleasure. I never had that because I was always last out. For a reason, of course. Listen, you know the goal you scored against Martin Brodeur? It was a 4-1 win against the New Jersey Devils. This comment came out. That goal tied your father's career in goals. Is that true? Did Pops only score one goal in the NHL?
I'll let you ask him when you get him on air.
Al, you get those stats, buddy, because I feel embarrassed if I say that. And Pop's, Pop's a pretty tough kid. And then you scored a shorthanded goal, your first in a multiple-goal game versus the Montreal Canadiens.
I did. It was the last game of the season for the 2009-2010 season in Montreal. It was a pretty cool game. It was hockey night in Canada, Saturday night. We won, I think it was like 5-4 in overtime, and I had 2 goals and assisted on the overtime game winner and was first star of the game. So that was one of the cooler moments of my career.
Unbelievable. Paul, just before you ask a question, I just want to say Aaron Kuzak from Melbourne, Australia, saying hello. Always great to see you. Robert Weir from here. Hi, Christian. How's your arm? You can answer that in a sec. But I want to go to 2010 World Hockey Championships. You're wearing the USA jersey. You are in a place called Gelsenkirchen, which was actually called Schalke. It was 76,000 people. It was the largest indoor game played on a soccer field. The actual, Paul, which was really cool about this, is the actual soccer field would roll out of the arena, and then they had underneath the ice rink where the pipes were in the cement, and they built a rink, and it was USA versus Germany. And I was in the crowd watching my buddy Christian Hanson play. They lost 2-1 in overtime against the Germans. So the Germans thought they had won the Stanley Cup. And Christian Hanson, I watched him get an assist. You remember that day?
I do. It was Rosie. It was pretty amazing. Like Gouche said, there was 76,000 people in the stands, and the loudest applause was when they announced that Kerry Gouche, the all-time leading scorer of the 7th division in Germany, was in attendance.
Oh man!
When do I get a check? That was a good one. All right, Paul, you ask the next question because I
want to get serious for 1 second, Christian. You know, we got a lot of people watching from all over the world. We're in a crazy time right now. You were a big part of Stop Concussions and the touring and that, and I really look up to you. We had a couple of times to talk. What do you say to a young kid, maybe 17, 18, getting ready to take that next step, and all of this has happened? What's your advice?
My advice, just with regards to the overall process, or specifically,
to getting ready to take that next step, the hockey career, the things that they have to look forward to, good and bad, and dealing with this pandemic.
I think in general, 2 pieces of advice I can give. One was a line that my dad told me, and it always stuck with me. He said, if you're not playing hockey for the love of the game, you're playing for the wrong reasons. You should play hockey because you love the sport, and that should be the number one reason why you play the game. And that was always why I played it. You talk to kids and everybody wants to play in the NHL. Everybody wants the college scholarships, play major, junior. But at the end of the day, if you're not having fun and you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're not going to reach your full potential. So the number one thing is, if you're not playing for the love of the game, then I really believe you're not playing for the right reasons. And then to kind of go hand in hand, Rosie, with what you said, for those kids who are looking to get to the next level, my strength coach when I was at College of Notre Dame gave me another piece of advice that stuck with me really in all facets of life. And it is, the only person that can break you is yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else says about you or how anybody else views you. At the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. And on the flip side, if you do believe in yourself, the world is your oyster. And as long as you believe in yourself and you really, truly know deep down that you're working as hard as you can and you want to get to the next level, I think things will work out for him more often than not.
Wow, Paul, that's great advice. I know you've talked same words of wisdom. Thank you for that, Christian. That was unbelievable. So you're obviously you went through your playing career. You had an opportunity to come with us to Australia and play in a game in front of your father, who was coaching you, and a gentleman named Gretzky was at this event, and you played, and you were the leading scorer for USA in that tournament. You were the MVP of the tournament. Was it because your dad was there, or Gretzky?
It's actually because I was promised a Hungry Jack's endorsement for whoever was the MVP of the tournament, and I still haven't gotten my burger.
Well, I just found the coupons. I just actually found them while we're cleaning up the house, and I found them, but I don't think they're not valid anymore. They ended in 2019. Listen, a lot of people online. Kevin Shea said that was one of the best lines, as did Val, about me. And there's a guy named Tobias. He was actually at the game with me. We were sitting beside each other, and I was bragging that you were the son of Dave Hanson. And he actually said, well, what's his first name? And of course I forgot. And then Wendy McCreary says, hey, Christian, good to see you, and you've got a great sense of humor. And finally, Shoppy is our European correspondent, and he's from Krefeld, and everything revolves, and you know this, Paul, everything revolves around Krefeld, right? Yep. So he writes, hey, Christian, you played with Joran Coral in Providence with the Bruins. You remember that?
I think he's talking about Jordan Caron, yeah.
Well, he said Joran, so I didn't say his name wrong. Jordan Coral. Okay, he was one of the best players that ever played in Krefeld. And when you played in Norway, you played with a guy named Christensen.
Yep, Tommy Christensen and Matty Tretsness.
How good were they?
They're both very good players.
Yeah, and you won a championship there.
We did.
Tell us about that.
We did. That was a pretty neat experience. It was the 1 year I played over in Europe, and I went over and played in Stavanger for the Stavanger Oilers in the Norwegian League, and joined the team after the first of the year. And it was a great experience playing in Europe, up in Scandinavia. It was really neat. I'm glad that it was something I was able to do, and just to experience the culture and the hockey over there. And the team, we were a pretty good squad, lucky enough to win the regular season, then go on to win the playoff championship as well.
Christian, what are you doing these days? What's going on? First of all, how are you managing the pandemic? You know, Gouche and I are stuck. I'm stuck in my sister's house. Gouche is stuck at home in the Gouche fortress. What are you doing these days?
Hanging tight in Pittsburgh. I'm down here, spending the quarantine as well with my parents and my dog. So we're hanging tight, kind of like everybody else, just riding it out and hoping that we're doing our part to flatten the curve and just wait for everything to pass.
Did you ever get, we talked a little bit about you obviously being in Europe or in Norway. Did you ever get a chance or an offer to go to Germany?
No, I didn't. I wish I would have. I played with Team USA over for World Championships over there. And then the first year that I was signed in Toronto, I actually did a 2-week kind of transfer program with Mannheim.
So that's right. I remember that. Yep.
I went over for 2 weeks and went through training camp with Mannheim in August of 2009, and absolutely loved it. Had a great experience. The staff, the team, the town itself. We stayed in Heidelberg. The team plays in Mannheim, but we stayed in Heidelberg for 2 weeks. So I got to experience everything with the culture. Thoroughly enjoyed it, loved it, and wish that I would have had an opportunity, but phone never rang, and that's just kind of the way it goes.
You had the wrong agent. I would have got your job there. Shoppy asked that question, of course. So next time you want to do that, just make sure that you give me a shout. I'll get you over there. Listen, Barry Chase, you remember Barry Chase from Brisbane? He's saying hello. Love
hey,
you.
Barry, hey, Tina.
Tina and Barry. So that's really exciting. Paul, last question.
Do you think with all the speculation and the NHL and Gary Bettman saying that they're going to do everything they can to finish this year, do you think that the NHL will come back this year and have a Stanley Cup champion, or are we just going to go on to next year?
I think if they are able to find a way, Rosie, where they get the medical clearance in some capacity and not put anybody at risk or at any greater risk than anybody is at right now. If they're able to find a way to do that, I truly believe that the NHL will be able to get back. They've stressed it, and it seems to be the number one talking point for them to get the NHL back, which rightly so it should be. But the main concern right now is trying to find a way to either do point of contact testing or finding a way to make sure that by bringing the guys back, nobody would be at a greater risk. And if they're able to do that, I truly believe that there will be an NHL. The players seem to be on board. The teams seem to be on board to, even if they have to start in July, August, finishing up this season in September, having a shorter off season, and starting next year in November, if that's something that they need to do, if they need to play in front of no fans. But first and foremost, I think it's just finding a way to minimize any of the potential risk. And if they are able to find a way to do that, I truly believe that they will have either a rest of the regular season or jump right into the playoffs and award a Stanley Cup, because I think sports can go a long ways in helping everybody get through tough times like this. It'll be a way for people to come together and take the mind off things.
We are talking with Christian Hanson. You're listening to Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. Listen, a lot of people on asking some questions. Darren Banks, Darren from Las Vegas is saying hello.
Hey,
we have him on next week. He's going to be an interesting, you know him well, so we'll just say that'll be an interesting interview. Kyle Binston, all the way from Canberra. Good to see Christian rocking the Slapshot poster behind you. Are there any pictures behind you that are of Christian Hanson, or is it just of the movie Slapshot?
Well, the wall behind me is the Slapshot wall, and of course, it's the biggest wall in the house. I have
it's a wall of paint?
Yeah, I have about a 4x6 inch collage over in the one corner that I was allowed to claim. But the
one
big
jersey.
Yeah, the big wall behind me is all Slapshot stuff.
Paul, do you have any Slapshot memorabilia?
I do not.
All right, Christian's going to steal something off the wall and send it to you. All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
If he can do it, that'd be great. But I'm not one of these guys who wants to take anything from anybody. So I just enjoyed the movie.
Well, when I'm down there next time drinking some electric reindeer with you, Christian, I'll make sure you better count all the posters, because I'm going to steal something for you, Paul. Listen, as we let you go, I know, has Pop showed up yet?
Yep.
All right, so Pops is there. You can bring Pops in for a sec before you take off. But here's the question: who's a better actor, you or your dad?
Him.
Yeah, you're absolutely great. Well, listen, Christian, thank you for taking time with us. As you can see, I'm wearing the Chiefs jersey. I know we've been promising many times. It was this year. I had it all lined up for us to go to Oktoberfest. The Hanson brothers, Christian Hanson in Oktoberfest. And you know what? They canceled Oktoberfest this year, so we're not going.
I know. There's always
how crazy is that? When anybody ever thinks that this pandemic's not real, the Germans stopped a beer drinking festival, so it's real. Christian, can't thank you a lot. A lot of people may not know it. You're not only a good hockey player, you're a great friend and a true ambassador. You've helped stop concussion, getting us players over to Australia. You've been there yourself, and I know you're going to come back for the 10th year anniversary. You're going to get in shape. I'm going to be with you. We're going to make sure that you lead the USA again to victory.
I'm not getting on that plane unless I have a Hungry Jacks in hand.
Promise you, I'm actually going to get you a jacket that says Hungry Jacks, and you'll get a gold card. But you know what? You can't win because Paul's coming back and he's 0-2. So can we get you traded to the Canadians?
If I go 0-3, I'm jumping.
Had a blast, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Love you. Love you, kid.
See you, Christian.
What a good kid, eh? Down to earth, good looking dude. Looks like oh God, what's the name of that actor?
Brad Pitt.
He doesn't look like Brad Pitt. Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah, a little bit with the beard and everything. Yeah.
Well, he said it. I didn't. No, look at that poster at the back. Can you name any? There's there he is.
Oh, there's
everybody. Hey, Rosie.
Hey, what I got going on, kid? Our world tour.
Yeah, it's a
Hey,
holdover.
look what I did for you, buddy.
No.
Oh,
No,
you're
that's
foiled
not-
up.
No, it's terrible.
You got them over your
Okay.
fingernails. What's
Hang
with
on.
that?
Help
I don't
me
know.
out here. I got it.
Foil.
What do you do?
This.
Dave, what do? You go like this? Am
Over
I
the
doing it
whole
right?
thing, right?
To start, yeah. Be careful,
Okay.
Gouche. You'll hurt yourself.
I may cut myself. Brooksy.
I
Mr.
ran out of
Brooks.
foil. I can only do my fingers.
Okay, what do I do now? So here are my
Put on
fingers.
the hand, right?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Where do I go? Around the fingers?
Over your knuckles. No, you go over the knuckles.
Right
You
here?
got that
Yeah,
tape.
That's it. I ran out. Ah, loser I am.
Oh, don't worry. I got more where this came from.
You know, if you wore the foil, Gouche, you probably would have played a higher level and even scored more goals than you
Oh my
did
God,
over Germany.
Yeah. Okay, real quick question before we get started into this funness. Who had more goals in their career, you or Christian?
You counting practice also?
Warm up. We'll give you warm up. We won't give you practice.
Well, Christian was a goal scorer. I was not a goal scorer. I actually found it easier to rack up penalty minutes than I did points, so I took the easy way out.
I actually heard you were a lover.
Well, that was off the ice.
Listen, we got so many people that are come on. Actually, I got to be honest. We are close to our top amount of people watching us, Paul.
We
We must
knew.
be getting good.
Oh, you got 3 people.
You
That's
knew.
good.
We hit 10 actually.
Man,
Oh,
We knew when we get the Hanson father and son on, this was going to be a huge show.
oh yeah.
absolutely, it has been. And we got so many people saying hello. So before we get into there, Sam Trapolino from Adelaide is saying hello. You won't remember all these names, but you may remember this name, Uber Fabik. We did an event in Christ in Crayfeld, and he writes, I remember that you, Gouche, brought the Hansons to Crayfeld in 2005, and we were able to have a game with the big old boys against the Hanson team. There was 4,500 people at it, and everybody knew every line, and it remains one of the most unforgettable experiences. And Uber Fabik was you don't know that, Paul. He was a tough son of a bee. Tough.
Yeah, I remember that trip. That was, I think that was the first time we went over there with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Crayfeld. I mean, my greatest memory of Crayfeld had nothing to do with the hockey. It had to do with that roast that we had. I think we were over there right after the Oktoberfest ended, and they had like whatever dumpy little hotel you stuck us in. They had a wonderful.
we actually stayed there a couple of years ago. It was fantastic. They renovated
They had a wonderful Oktoberfest roast for us, and it was I don't know what the meat was, but it was the best I've ever had, and haven't had it since.
Yeah, well, I think it was Schweinhacks. It was this big, huge pig knuckles, and you almost broke your teeth.
Yeah, right.
Listen, it's great to have you on. Obviously, both of us have been around you a lot, and we've done a lot of great stuff for us. Stop Concussion, Shoot for a Cure, and you and I have traveled the world, actually, as has Rosie. You've been over to Germany. We've been to Krefeld. We've been to, let me just get the list. It's crazy how many places we've been. We went to Hamburg. We went to Halle. We went to Berlin. We went to Greifrat, a little city I played with. So Brooksy's saying it was Schweinhach. So, and that was in Krefeld. And that was 2005. Out of all the cities in Germany, if you recall any of them, other than Krefeld, was there anything that you said, wow, I wish I could live there?
No, I didn't care for the breakfasts.
They were terrible, eh?
Oh,
What about the beer? Did you have any beer there or no? Did you have any beer there?
Yeah, I mean, the beer was, like, I like my beer ice cold, and, I like a Canadian Molson Draft, or here in the States, it's my big mug of an icy, frosty Bud Light. But over there, it took a little getting used to at first, because you didn't get ice beer, cold beer there, and it took forever to get the doggone beer, because they'd pour it, then they'd pour it half full, then they'd sit it down, and you're sitting there waiting, tapping your fingernails. But after I acquired a pretty good taste for it, then it was good stuff. I mean, the thing that just really boggled my mind is how we drank and drank and drank and didn't have a hangover the next day. So I thought that was the greatest thing in the world.
We got to ship some over. A little bit different than your electric reindeer. Paul, I know you got a question for Dave.
Yeah, Dave, I want to ask you. So the movie came out a long time ago. it changed the lives of a lot of people. Almost everybody who has anything to do with sport has watched that movie. Playing for the Canadian sled team, every time we were on a bus trip, no matter where it was in Europe, that movie always came on. How did it feel deep in your heart to know that you did something that really has touched millions of people for so long in all generations?
Well, you think about it, Rosie, when it first came out, I was 20 years old. And the only way you could watch it was in the movie theater. And it would go through the movie theater, have its run, and then nobody ever saw it again until it eventually came on TV. Well, there was no way Slapshot in our minds was going to be on TV. And so it really wasn't until the invention of the VCR, sometimes in the 70s, that the movie hit the shelf and people could view it. And at that time, it became like one of the top 3 most rented movies of all time. It just went off the shelves and went gone. So it really wasn't really until that happened that the phenomenon of Slapshot exploded. And, from that point on, when Jeff, Steve, and I got back together to do a little impromptu appearance, and it just blew up from there, we really had no idea at how widespread and popular it was. And then, when you go over to places like Germany, like we went to Gouche, and the place was packed, and everybody knew of Slapshot and the Hanson brothers, and were saying lines from the movie in German. I had no idea what they were talking about. Did we really understand the worldwide magnitude of Slapshot? And from, since came out in 77 till now, it's unbelievable how many people from all obscure parts of the world, as well as the main street cities, know of Slapshot that I've come across. So it's really pretty cool. Yeah. And the thing about it is, when anybody talks about Slapshot, they do it with a smile on their face. So, to touch the generations that we have, it just keeps going down and on and on and on. Quite frankly, it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. My brother, Steve, who watches the show all the time now, he says, I went to high school with Guido Tenuzi. He played Pretty Boy Charlebois. You remember him?
Yeah, Guido and I were roommates. Unfortunately, we didn't get to room together when he always had the Sparkle twins with him. But we were roommates for a couple of years. And good guy, good hockey player, great teammate, and not a very good actor, though. That's why, if you ever notice, he hasn't got a single line in the movie. But he did a great job. He played his character perfect.
Well, we've got a lot of people on watching Dave Hanson, of course, from the movie Slapshot, a good friend of ours. You've been tremendous with us with all the charity work that you do, not only for us, but all around the world. So I just want to tell you that the other cities went to Winnigan, Neuheim, went to Rostock. Yeah. We were all over the place. Martin William, Paul, who we had on yesterday, actually was at that game and helped us organize it. So it's fantastic. Uxbridge with our good friend John Cavers. That's not in Germany. It just lets you know that. In Hanover, we went to a place called the Herrenhauser. It was a brewery that we ended up clearing up the vats. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. Barry Chase, who was on the tour with us, if you remember, in Australia. He asked you to meet a huge fan from Newcastle while you were in Sydney. And it was unbelievable that we had Gretzky there, we had you there, John O'Groton. Like, it was just a massive event, and everybody was grabbing everybody. And of course, everybody wanted Dave Hanson to sign. You had to go, the glasses on, all that sort of stuff. But you took an extra minute to go over and see this kid and say hello to him. And this kid still today talks about that, and Barry wanted to bring that up, how giving of your time, not only there, but throughout all of North America. The Slapshot movie, obviously, was it the highlight of your hockey career? I know when you first got in it, you didn't get in it to be an actor. Do you consider yourself your actor, even though Shoppy says you look like an actor and you still look like 2005? I'm not sure I'm going to go that far, but how did you feel? You were a hockey player. You weren't an actor, were you?
Well, I heard Rosie's comments about Slapshot 2 and 3, and
I'm getting off.
We actually did get Best Supporting Actor awards for Slapshot 2, Rosie. I want you to know that. But I won't disagree with you.
I just remember one being so amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't compare it. You can't compare it at all. But, the neat thing about actually Slapshot 1, the original, is even though I guess you could call it acting because we had scripted lines, we weren't really acting. I mean, it was our personalities and being ourselves, and it got to the point where, again, we certainly had some scripted lines, but it got to the point where, because we tried to act in the beginning, the director, George Roy Hill, said, knock it off, fellas. Just be yourselves. What would you do? Here's your lines. If you don't like the lines and you think of something else, try it. We'll give it a try. And that's kind of the way we did it. We did the lines. We were ourselves. We winged it every once in a while, improvised. And so really we didn't act. It was us. It was Jeff Carlson, Steve Carlson, Dave Hanson, just being the goofballs we were at that time of our lives.
Well,
with glasses on and foil.
It worked. Val says, Val, our producer director, about the car scene, the little toy cars. Was that your idea to bring that in, or was that the director decided, or somebody else decided? Because it was a great scene.
Well, the backstory behind the whole movie, and you probably know this, but I'm telling you something you do know, is that the movie was written more based on fact and fiction. So, quite frankly, and 95% of the movie really happened in some form or fashion, other than the striptease at the end. Everything else in there is based on reality. Nancy Dowd, who is an outstanding screenplay writer, won an Academy Award for Coming Home that she wrote later on, followed the team around, spent time with us, wrote the script, had her brother Ned Dowd, who played for us at the time, sending her little recordings of what happened on this bus trip, what happened at this team party, what happened in the bar room. And so all that kind of stuff, really, really happened. So the thing about the cars was, Johnstown, when we had a day off in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, we would go to my apartment. I lived on the third floor with Guido Tanisi, as a matter of fact. The three Carlson brothers lived on the second floor. The landlords lived on the first floor. We would take all the furniture up in our level on the third floor, push it all back, set up the racetrack, and we would have race car races. And it started out with just a couple of us guys, the Carlsons and Guido and me. And after a while, the rest of the team caught on, and it turned into a big race car weekend for us. Every Sunday afternoon when the bars are closed down, everybody would say, hey, let's go over to Hanson's place and race cars. So that's kind of where that kind of came from.
All right, we are listening to Dave Hanson. Dave, we got a lot of people saying some things here. Guido Hamacher from Eschweiler, one of the first cities I played in, came and saw you, and he said, well, you're still looking younger than ever. We won't ask your age, of course. We'll leave that out. I'm
surprised you haven't said anything yet.
No. It's coming out now.
Oh, okay.
Aaron Kuzak says Dave might be able to play Kurt Cobain in a movie, or would it be more like Garth in Wayne's World? Any love of music, and he loves the beard. It's getting a little white though.
Well, I was going for the Chuck Norris look, but I'm afraid I'm going to end up with the Gandalf the Grey look, the way it's gone.
Oh, I love that.
Lord of the Rings, you're absolutely right there. That's a good look. Martin Williams just wants to let us know, yes, we were in Bad Noyam and he scored 4 goals. Thank you for letting us in on how many goals you scored against the Hanson brothers. Honestly.
They didn't against us.
Well, that's what he says. And Eric Mathis out of Winnipeg is saying, we had such a great time at the golf tournament. You remember that?
Yeah.
We had a great time. And we were planning to go back there this year, but some stupid virus got in the way. So we'll have to change our plans, of course. Paul, I know your brother's asking you something.
Yeah, he says, like the story about Paul Newman waking you up from an afternoon nap.
Yeah, that's actually the first time I met Paul. We were in the playoffs against Philadelphia Firebirds, and had a game that day. Had our I was going in the middle of my pregame nap, and I'm hearing some knocking on the door. Wakes me up, so I a little ticked off, and I jump out of bed with my underwear and dirty socks on, of course, and open up the door, and there standing in front of me is this guy that looks like Paul Newman, except I envisioned Paul Newman to be, you know, like a John Wayne, a 6'5", big burly guy, and there's this little 5'8", 9" guy, thin and with the biggest blue eyes prettiest blue eyes I've ever seen in a man in my life. And he puts his hand out and he says, "Dave." I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm Paul Newman." And I said, "Oh yeah, I guess you are." And he said, "Geez," he says, you're looking a little rough there." I said, "Well, hey, Paul, I'm napping." He says, "Oh, I'm awfully sorry." He says, "Well, you're welcome to go back to nap. If you wouldn't mind, would you let us come in? I got a couple guys from the art department want to take a look at what a hockey player's apartment looks like." And I said, "No problem, Paul. I'm heading back. Go ahead." You know. And then he says, "Well, hey, before you go back, do you have any beer in the fridge?" I said, "Yes, yeah." He says, "Well, yeah, I'd like to pop a beer and sit down and watch the race on TV while these guys do their things." I says, "Hey, serve yourself, no problem. I'll see you later." And that was my first introduction to Paul.
Wow, that's unreal.
Unbelievable. So I read something about the opening scene. You were mentioned to say that the opening scene was incorrect. You remember that? Do you remember ever talking about that?
No, the opening scene with Daniel Lemieux.
Daniel Lemieux, yeah, it said something in here that Hanson joked. That's what happens when you get a goaltender explain the rules. Well, didn't he do all the things wrong with hooking and slashing and spearing and butt ending?
Well, I think spearing. He says, "Well, didn't he say this is spearing?" He didn't even spear him; he butt ended him. So
yeah, exactly, he did.
Yeah, well, that's what you get from a French. That's not only a goaltender, but a French goaltender.
Right. How much fun is he though? He's
remember, Dave, I played goal.
Yeah, well, I won't hold that against you. Yeah.
All right.
That explains a lot. No question.
You didn't play goal; you played the sieve.
Oh, wow.
Let's talk about you. Let's go back. Wheel all the way back.
Let's talk more about Paul and his goaltending.
We've already talked about that. The bus going between his legs. Listen, let's go to Winnipeg because you've got a lot of fond memories. Eric brought this up. One, your buddy Jimmy Mann. Tell us about playing against Jimmy Mann. He always tells
Jimmy
us.
Mann. Yeah, I'm sure. Have you had Jimmy on yet?
Yep.
We had Jimmy on, and he brought a story.
Did he tell the story? Yeah.
We want to hear the truth, though.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy doesn't lie. He just has his own version of the truth, but it's not a lie.
No, true.
No, I remember it very, very plainly. Jimmy was, if I recall, a first-round draft pick for Winnipeg.
Yes, he was.
But also a tough guy, and I got warned before the game. It was my first game against Winnipeg that Jimmy was a member of. You know, and like anybody, you look through the lineup and this and that, and you got the veteran guys saying, "Well, hey, Dave, you might want to keep an eye on Jimmy Mann. He's a tough kid, plays the game honest, but he's a bit sneaky. He's got a sneaky left." And so obviously the time came where, and I don't know who challenged who. It was probably just a mutual dropping of the gloves. And from what I recall, is that we kind of danced a little bit, sparred a little bit. Nobody really throwing punches, and I don't know how long it went on, but I kept looking for the left, and finally the referee started moving in, and it kind of says, "Okay, guys, that's it." And as soon as they said, "Okay, guys, that's it," and started moving in, I dropped my hand, and here came Jimmy's sneaky left, just right over the shoulder, and popped me right in the nose and knocked me down. And I give him credit for that. I should have known better, but never had an opportunity again to go back at it with him. And maybe I'm pretty fortunate of that.
Well, you know what he did while we were in Germany one time. He pulled out the video. You could Google it, and when you watch the video, for you, it cuts off before that happens. So you can change the story. You can actually say,
I'll be honest with you, he popped me a good one, enough to put me on my heels and make me fall. It didn't break my nose. It didn't bloody my nose. It didn't hurt. I don't know if that's because of my cement head or what, but it was enough to make me hit the ice and look bad.
Well, he probably was swinging a purse. Hey, listen, one more before Paul gets a question in. I want to bring back Winnipeg again. A very important moment in Winnipeg's history. Dave Hanson hears about Bobby Hull, of course. What happened with Bobby Hull and Dave Hanson? It's pretty remarkable.
Well, it was one of those things, again, where we were in the playoffs against Winnipeg. I think they finished first in the WHA, and we were the last seed. And, the tone was we were in Winnipeg, and back then, as I'm not telling you anything nobody knows, at Fall Winnipeg, they just had an incredible hockey team. You had the Swedes with Nielsen and Hedberg, and then Hull on the wing, and Schuberg on defense, and it was just an incredible hockey team. On the other hand, we had some incredible hockey players with Paul Henderson, Mark Napier, Frank Mahovlich, great goaltending, but we were built for it to be a big, physical, intimidating hockey team, not unlike the Broad Street Bullies at the time. And so there's no way that we were going to be able to just skate with Winnipeg. So, part of our game plan was to be physical and take that aspect of the game from them. So my intention was, hey, I was going to set the tone right away, and I was going to go after the biggest guy they had on the team, biggest being the best player, and that was, of course, one of them was Bobby Hull. And there was an opportunity for me to step into Bobby early on in the game with the plan to knock him on his can and like I said, set the tone for the game. And when I hit Bobby knocked me on my can, and actually I think he might have gone in and scored. And as I put my tail between my legs and went over to the bench, I said to myself, well, that ain't going to happen again. And so the next opportunity I had to hit Bobby, I stepped into him pretty hard. I would say maybe got my elbows up a little higher, and he took exception to it. And we both dropped the gloves and started swinging away at it. And next thing I know, I'm looking at Bobby, and he's looking a little different than he started. He's looking at me, and it was kind of like a snapshot in time where everything kind of stopped. The roaring of the crowd seemed to stop. And I'm looking at Bobby, and then I look down at my hand, and I think, oh, my God, I got his hairpiece in my hand. I ripped Bobby Hull's wig off. Wow. And I tossed it out into the ice. And ultimately, I ended up getting 5 minutes for fighting, 2 minutes for roughing. Bobby didn't get anything, by the way. He went in, put on a Jaffa helmet, came out and finished the game. Later at a face-off, I'm lined up against Bobby, and I says, geez, Mr. Hull, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And he says, kid, don't worry about it. I need to get a new one anyhow. So that is not literally the end of the story. The end of the story actually goes on to where, as I'm skating off the ice at the end of the game, and I go up to Bill Friday, who was the referee, and I says, Bill, I got to ask you, why didn't you throw me out of the game? He says, for what? I says, for pulling his hair. That's a gross misconduct. He says, pulling his hair. If he had real hair and you pulled it, I would have thrown you out of the game, but that's not real hair. I wasn't going to give you a penalty for pulling a wig off. So we both got a chuckle out of that one.
Yeah, that's cool. Let me ask you nowadays, okay, do you follow the game? If you do, what team do you follow? And what do you think about where we are right now with the pandemic? Is the hockey going to come back?
Well, I do follow the game, Rosie. I'm a big fan of the game. I think there's aspects of the game that I don't care as much for. The skill is incredible, but it's become so fast, and things are so tight out there anymore because guys are so much bigger. You don't get to see the Gretzkys and Lemieux stand out in today's game like you did back then. Guys like Crosby and some of the great players like you got in Toronto and Edmonton. They're not as glaring and able to showcase their skills as back in the game when the game was maybe a little bit slower. Guys weren't as big. The game wasn't as fast, but it's still exciting. And for an educated eye, that can watch a game, you see the great things that Crosby does and McDavid do, and the other great ones in the game. So it's a fun game. It's an exciting game. I still think fighting is a great part of the game that should still be in it more than it is. But where is it going to go from here? That's to be seen. Everybody, a lot of smart people and the athletes want to get back and find a way to get the game back. I think they will. I think it's going to start out playing in front of empty arenas. I think there's too much money in the game through advertising that they can afford to not play the game, but they can still generate that revenue through sponsorships and advertising on TV and social media and that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to get back on the game. I'm missing it.
We were talking to Dave Hanson. Obviously, we've been talking about the Slapshot movie. You're on Gouche Live featuring Paul
Hey,
Rosen.
say Wendy McCreary. Hi, Wendy.
Yes, she's there. She loves you. She loves you.
Bonin, too. Hey, Dave.
Yeah, Dave, Craig.
They actually do have somebody.
We're talking about this is probably one of our highest rated shows, for God's. I got to bring you on every day. I think it was for Christian. I think you're just the aftermath. Listen, I got a couple. I know we only got a few minutes with you. We don't want to take up all your family time, even though
I got a lot to do.
Yeah, you're only at home, anyways. Hey, listen, I'm gonna run out of power. I gotta plug in. Hey, listen, these are a couple of questions I want you to answer. I don't know if you remember this guy, Craig Campbell. He was a referee over in Australia. He's a crazy bugger. Dave got the loudest cheers when he was down here in Australia with the tour, even bigger than Gretzky. And that's no disrespect to Wayne. You're a great guy, no question. That's coming from a great individual over in Australia. And I'm going to tell this one story, then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You are not a person that wants to hear a bunch of accolades, but this is a true story. And no disrespect to Wayne Gretzky.
Wait a minute. Stop you. Hi, Tony. All right, keep going.
And then I want to tell you. Then I'm going to ask you a question. So we're in Australia. We're up in a room. We got Gretzky signing autographs. You had just walked into the room. You didn't have your glasses on or your jersey. And of course, me trying to be the promoter, run over and say, "Dave, put your glasses on. Put the jersey on." Goes the jersey, and the line went from Gretz to you. And then I knew, holy macalarchy! Are you kidding me? This kid's a magnet. So
it was a chick magnet. It was all the chicks came to me.
Well, no, I will not go there because Sue wouldn't allow me to do it. Daryl Sutter, a guy played in Winnipeg, tough kid, also very similar to you, is saying hello. We love the movie. Yeah. Listen, you've got to be like. I see a bunch of accolades behind. You've got, Christian, your son, had basically told us that you've got one full wall. It's probably about 20 feet. And he said he got I think it's in the washroom. He's got about 2 foot space there to hang up his memorabilia. But you got to be awfully proud to have a son. You and Sue did an immaculate job raising this kid. Because you know what? I've been around the world. I've been around a lot of hockey people, and I'm not blowing smoke. What a beautiful man. He's not only a great kid, he's not only a great ambassador for the game, he's helped us tremendously. He treats Tony and I with respect. Her, I understand. Me, I don't get it so much. But man, you got to be awfully proud, bud.
Well, I am, and I got to give credit where credit's due. His mother had most of it, most of the credit for that. But yeah, any dad can always talk about his kid, and I can't be more proud. And the man that he's growing into, he worked hard to accomplish what he got to. He was dedicated at an early age. His mother and I set down some pretty stringent guidelines for him to allow him to continue to play hockey, which was, you got to make sure that you're a top student in your class, and that's number one. And two, always be respectful of the game and be respectful of people. So it's worked out. Sue and I are one of the lucky ones. My wife and I are one of the lucky ones that didn't have a manual to follow, but figured out some way to make an impression and have him turn out to be a pretty good guy.
Paul's going to come back up here in a second. He's got a couple more questions, then we're going to let you go. But here's one thing that I can say, being where I am, my personality, I'm kind of out there in space. But what I do watch, I watch and see everything and I hear everything. The one thing that I can say about Christian that shows, and Aaron Kuzak just said it came from great stock, is your son. And again, I don't want to overplay this, but I think it's really important for people to understand. It's not always easy following a successful father, whether it be a hockey player or an actor like you are. But the one thing he treats not only you and Sue with respect, but elderly. And I always say, you can see the testament of a human being when they treat their elders with respect. And he met my mother, I don't know how many times, once or twice, and he was so respectful to her. And that's when I knew this kid was a real deal. Listen, tell us a little bit about, before Paul comes in, tell me about the rink. I know you run a very program in Pittsburgh. We've had a couple of people ask the question. They know, I think Sebastian Porche is going to be running a tournament, obviously probably not this year, but he was talking about your rink. Tell us about that, please, if you don't mind.
Well, we've got a pretty neat facility. We're on 32 acres of property. We're literally on an island surrounded by the Allegheny River, and we got 4 rinks. 2 are ice year-round indoors. 1 is seasonal ice. It's kind of an outdoor, but it has a roof over its sides. And 1's a total inline hockey rink year-round. And then we got a big indoor golf driving range, one of the biggest in the country, a track and field complex in the back. A boathouse, which for the rowing team, because we're part of a university, we're part of Robert Morris University, who have NCAA Division I programs, including the men's and women's hockey teams. So we're pretty neat. We keep the place busy all the time. But March 16, we had to close the doors, which was pretty heart-jerking and heartbreaking, and we're just kind of plugging along, hoping that. Hopefully we'll open back up soon and have everybody come back and have a good time and kind of put this all behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. You see, I'm wearing my my Hits Happen shirt.
Yeah.
4-stop concussions. I asked Christian, my last question for you, Dave, and thanks again for your time. But I asked Christian this, and I'm going to ask you. What do you say to a young kid right now comes and wants some advice from Dave Hanson? He's 17, 18, wants to make hockey his life, maybe going to get drafted. And all of this going on right now is it's hitting people mental health wise because we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. What do you say to them?
Well, at 16, 17 years old, I would still say, make sure you have options. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. There's nothing wrong with having a dream and driving for it. And Christian is an example of that. He had a dream. He wanted to be a hockey player, and we said, fine. But make sure you got options. He had an opportunity to go to major junior A hockey. But we said, you know what? Again, and I said this earlier, you have to be a good student. You have to be academically inclined. Work hard. Work as hard at that as you do at your hockey, because God forbid you're an injury away from not having a hockey career. And if you don't have a good education, then it's pretty tough to continue on in this world and be successful. So again, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure you got a good education. Even if they go major junior A, usually their education is part of that package in some form or fashion. If you don't, and you go the collegiate route, there you get an education as well. And the other thing to that is, and I would be surprised if Christian didn't say this, is, enjoy it, love it, play it because you have a passion for it. Back in my day, and that's such a cliche way of putting it, but, in Johnstown, for an example, we were getting paid $200 a week. Didn't make money. But we weren't playing for the money. We played for the love of the game. And as long as you got that love, it's like anything else, it's not work. You love what you're doing, enjoy what you're doing, especially with hockey, because in the journey of life, it only ends up being a short period of time. So play for the love of it. And as soon as you don't enjoy it, get out of it, move on.
That's exactly
great advice. Yeah. Sorry, Paul.
No, that's exactly what he said, that you got to love the game.
Good.
Well, you're spot on too. And we have a little bit of a lag, so that's why sometimes I interrupt. So I apologize about that, Paul. Listen, we've had a great show. I'll tell you what, we've been doing this now. I don't know how much you know about it. We were in a studio for the hockey news. Obviously, it shut down, and then Paul and I decided that we'd continue on this with Facebook. Thought we'd only do a couple of shows. We're on well over our 40th show, which is in a row. We haven't missed a date yet, Paul, so compliment to you. But having guests like Dave Hanson is just absolutely phenomenal. Dave, we're going to ask you to come back if you don't mind. And I wouldn't mind if we could get a hold of.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, you're not going anywhere yet.
Oh.
We want your
wine.
I kind of. Tony's bringing me up the bottle. But what I want to ask you is this: can we? Is anyone, you, I, and Paul, and Jeff Carlson could be on together? Because that would be fun.
Well, you're asking. Jeff has a hard time using his antiquated cell phone, and you're going to ask him to go live on the.
Well, you know what? We can maybe get his son to help because he's always good. But anyways, I know we couldn't get into all the things about the movie and that sort of stuff. But one thing we didn't, and I don't want to forget, is that there are 2 authors, believe it or not, on the screen of 3, right? 2 that have written successful books. Paul, you know that.
Yours was a coloring book, right?
They wouldn't let me.
Successful coloring book, I'll add. But.
Yes, it was very good. Paul is writing. Kevin Shea has already told him that he's going to start doing his memoirs. I'm actually, well, believe it or not, because I've had so much time on my hands, I actually was telling Paul this early this morning. I am actually writing. I had memoirs done many years ago. My sister was kind of pushing me in, and I'm going to actually, and there's a lot of stuff about my issues with my private life with my concussions, but a lot of fun stories about having you guys over in all the different parts of the world that we went. But I want to talk to you about your book. I don't read much, and I got a copy of it, and I didn't get through it all because the pictures, there weren't enough picture pages. Tell us about the process of writing a book, especially the education that you had in your past and mine. It's entertaining to write a book.
Well, it is if you have a story to. Well, let me take that back. If you're writing a book, you're being entertained. Hopefully someone else that reads the book will be entertained. And obviously you haven't because you haven't read my book.
Parts of it,
yeah.
Pictures.
But, it's funny how mine came about. I actually got interviewed. I was being interviewed by a writer out of Minnesota about, I don't know if it was about Glenn Sonmore, an ex-NHL WHA coach or who it was about. But, how hockey guys are, Paul and Gouche, you start telling hockey stories and they just don't end,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I went with this writer. We kind of got off track. We just started telling stories. And he says, you ought to write a book someday. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. Who's going to read my stories? And then there came a time, not too long afterwards, where I started thinking about that. I started thinking, if anything, I should write a book because who knows what's going to happen down the road with memory and concussions and stuff like that. I mean, we've had our share of concussions, and who knows, what the future holds there. And on one hand, I don't know if, my children know half of the stories that have gone on, at least the good stories in my life. So I called this writer back and I said, I want to take you up on that idea. How do we go about doing it? And he said, well, we'll find you a publisher. And that's what they did. And of course, the hook with the publisher was Slapshot. Yeah. So my intention was to write some kind of an autobiography about myself. But of course, and put the Slapshot stories in there because it becomes such a big part of my life. So literally I sat down and spent 4 months on all my free time just chronicling my life story as best I could. So when I was all done, I literally turned in a manuscript that was probably the size of War and Peace. It was, it was huge.
That's a book, Paul. It's by Krajewski or whatever that guy's name is. Another Russian or something.
Well, and I sent to the publisher, and the first thing he writes me back says, you're only allowed to have 230 pages or whatever the heck it was, instead of 3,057. So he sent it off to an editor, and the editor was some lady up in, Bear Butte, Montana, that knew nothing about hockey. But on one hand, I think it was good because she had to be entertained. On the other hand, I'm thinking, don't know anything about hockey. So they came back and really trimmed it down, to what it is now. So am I totally satisfied with it? No, but I think there's some, fun stories in there that I've been told people have enjoyed reading it. I apologize for the pictures, Gouche. If you had given me forewarning ahead of time that I needed more pictures for you to get through the book, I would have done that. But
well, you could have gotten crayons to it. It would have really entertained me.
But the neat thing about it, too, is it allowed me to, quite frankly, as I was going through some of the timelines in my life, to contact some people and say, how do you remember this? Do you remember this? And hear their side of the story. And then it kind of stirred some other things. And Paul Newman actually was going to write my foreword on it. A little story about that is, the plan was Paul agreed to write a forward for it. We were going to submit it by the deadline, and right before the deadline for submission, I got a call from his office, and they told me that, hey, Paul called and he apologizes. He wanted to do this, but he's having some severe back problems. He's laid up in the house when he can't do it. Probably 2 weeks later is when they found out he had cancer, and he shortly died after that. So that was, that was pretty unfortunate. But, then I got Bob Costas, who has a tie, to that league when we played, and he put a neat little pendant little forward to it. And of course, Gordie Howe, who, we all can't say enough about him, but I had developed a relationship with Gordie when I played against him. And then after, when we were hitting the scene and doing some appearances, he wrote one. So, things have a way of working out. And, and so anyhow, in short, it was just a fun process.
Well, fantastic. As we close off here, Richard Orth, big fan of the show. Slapshot original, the man, the foil, and the legend. Well worth the read, entertaining the entire way. Listen, as we close off, Aaron Kuzak says, listen, the 50th anniversary of the movie's coming up, and they're looking forward to having you back in Melbourne.
Right.
Do you think that's a possibility? How many years? Let's do the numbers. 1, 2, 3. Hey, I think we can do it. Paul, final word?
No, just thanks for being on. Love hearing the stories. Can't wait to get you on a roundtable and talk more.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah,
That's what we'll do.
good.
You know what? Yeah, Johnny Caver says hello. Dave, final words to us. Give us some wisdom, oh wise man.
Well, no, I'm surprised to I see John's on there. I actually see it's either my nephew or my brother-in-law that's on there, which is a nice surprise.
Yeah.
But all the neat names you have up there, good stuff.
It's fantastic.
No, thanks for having me,
Yeah.
Gouche. No, I enjoy this. I mean, anytime it's hockey talk, I'm in.
You know what we're going to do? Paul brought it up. We do what's called a roundtable where we just talk stories, and we're going to bring you on. We'll need another guest of your. You know what, Paul? I think do you remember a name called Andre Lacroix? Did you play against him at all?
I played against Andre in the WHA. Yeah.
We should do
Remember,
that.
he was telling. Why don't we get these
Great.
two on? We
Andre
talk
was
about
incredible guest. He told some
yeah.
stories.
We talk about yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's have
We'll
Dave and Andre and us on a roundtable.
Because I don't think enough people have talked about the WHA. That'd be a great
Yeah.
topic. Hey, Dave Hanson, can't thank you enough. You're looking pretty cool, kid. I'd shave, but you look pretty cool. I love that.
I'm going to get my wizard hat.
I've got that wand. Don't worry. All right, Paul. Thank you, bud. We'll let our buddy Dave go. Your son was amazing. You were amazing. Thank you. Give our love to Sue.
All right, guys.
Can't wait till the electric reindeer shows up at my door.
Hey.
Be well.
See
All
you,
right,
buddy.
guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
Take care. Hey, Gooch.
Wow, Paul, that was amazing.
I think you read that. That one wrong from Aaron. I think it says 50th show is coming up, looking like a massive lineup. That's 50th, our 50th show, not 50 years of Slapshot. Our 50th show is coming up, and we should have a massive lineup. That's what Aaron.
Oh, I knew. Oh, I knew that.
Oh, but you said Aaron said 50th anniversary.
Yeah, he meant that too because he loves the Slapshot guys.
Okay, all right. I don't know, I don't know how your brain works, but it's a beauty.
I'm doing 15 things at a time. Listen, let's get to overtime. There's some breaking news. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if our buddy's seen it. Wendy McCurry, there's breaking news. Don't go anywhere, you guys. This is a great show. We're getting such great comments. We're going to bring him back. Christian was amazing. But let's bring, you know what?
How do we find out, Gouche, how do we find out how many shows since this has happened? Not our shows on Hockey News, but how many shows in a row? And let's find out. Like, it's going to be next week, I think, when our 50th is, and have a huge 50th. That's a big thing.
Bring them all in. Absolutely. All right. Well, you know what? We'll ask Val because Val will know.
I hope he does.
Actually, Aaron was talking about it's going to be the 50th day in isolation, so that works because that would be our 50th show.
You know when
Val, what's going on, kid?
Sorry, one at a time. Hi, guys. How's it going? What was that, Paul?
Do you know when our 50th show is? It should be coming up very soon.
It feels like every day is the 50th show.
Be nice.
But I will look. I am. You know what? I will actually look it up, and I'll have that answer for you tomorrow and for everyone on the show tuning in.
Thank you.
No worries.
Tim Orleton from Australia, who got to meet Dave, says, thanks for bringing Dave to Australia, Gouche. What a great guy. No question. What are your thoughts on Dave Hanson? You've met Dave before, have you not, Val?
Yeah. Dave and I are good friends too. I know his son really well, and I know Dave really well for a lot of the events and everything. Like I said, Christian's actually hooked up my son meeting his favorite hockey player from St. Louis when he turned 10 a couple years ago. So really well known with everybody. Yeah.
Listen, Shoppy just put a note up. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, Shoppy, about Tim Stutzler. There's some news about him, but there is breaking news. Did anybody pick up the breaking news?
I did within the last hour. It's really bizarre, and it's the same thing you and I are talking about.
Paul, it's
New
about
England,
the NFL.
Yeah. New England Patriots are considering trading Rob Gronkowski and a 7th-round pick to the Tampa Bay Bucks for a 4th-round pick, pending on Gronk's physical. So, I mean, New England is looking for a new quarterback. Tom Brady's looking for a receiver. Gronkowski is working in wrestling right now in Tampa, in Florida. So maybe there's a full moon in there, and it'll be a connection.
Gronkowski retired.
He still has one more year under that New England contract for $10 million. But hey, you never say never. That guy's built like a machine. So
I don't know about trading his rights when he basically packed it in, never played last year, and said he'd had enough and retired. So I don't know how easy that's going to go.
You know what I mean? It could be the fact that he was just tired of the system in New England. And Tom Brady and he are good friends, I believe. So that's where this trade will come about.
Well, the team is not going to pick up his rights and trade for his rights unless they know 100% he's going to come out of retirement.
That's true. So there is a strong possibility that if this is being reported by a very reputable reporter in the world of sports, there might be some truth to the fire.
I guess anything's possible.
I saw it through Scott Oakman, who is a tremendous New England Patriot fan, and he said, I think I'm going to switch. It's going to be tough, but my loyalties may have to go to Tampa Bay. Scotty, don't do it, kid. Become a Vikings fan.
He'll be purchasing his creamsicle jersey sometime soon with Brady on the back.
We will be waiting to see that tomorrow. What you got going on in OT, bud?
Listen, hey, Paul, Wedding Crashers, it's with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. Those are the two actors.
Okay, so movie. What did Will Ferrell play?
But what's his name?
He does make an appearance in the movie, Will Ferrell.
It's an amazing appearance at the end when he goes his famous line, "Ma, meatloaf."
Yeah, that's a really, really great movie.
He won an Oscar for that, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, who knows? He's actually part owner of the LAFC franchise in MLS. Really big out there.
It always goes back to MLS with this guy.
Or Chicago Blackhawks.
Or Winnipeg.
There's always a story through Winnipeg. Look at how many stories you got from Winnipeg. Just Dave Hanson, for God's sakes. All right. What do you got? Anything else?
No, and there's actually a bizarre story breaking out of Major League Baseball where the league commissioner is allowing teams to lay off their managers, coaches, scouting staff, grounds crew as of May 1st, not having to pay them. I mean, the players themselves already negotiated some kind of pay reduction. They're not looking forward to any further pay reduction happening with their contracts either. So this is an interesting story coming out of Major League Baseball. I mean, the season hasn't started. Their contracts rock solid what they signed with the CBA. But, I mean, this is going to put a lot of fuel into the fire once they come to new negotiations.
Crazy. All right. We've got a great show tomorrow. We got
Jeff Christian and Kevin Noble will be joining us.
We'll be talking there. Okay, Val. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
No worries, guys.
See you, Val.
See you, bud.
Okay, to wrap it up, I know we've been a little bit longer than usual, but always great to get that breaking news. I think the trade's happened. I think, Aaron Kuzak, you're on right now. Please let me know. I think the trade happened. But as we wrap it up, Paul, yep. Sam Trapolino, we're going to, they don't know, well, he knows it, but Marnie doesn't know. Tomorrow we're going to end off the show with her just before we go to overtime, okay? And we're going to have a little chat with her. She's going to get up out of bed and be a part of the show just for all the great things she's done. Wow. And then Sam tells us he was the funeral crasher in
Yeah.
the wedding crasher.
At the end, yeah, he started crashing funerals. Yeah, you're right, Sam. It was so excited to have your beautiful daughter on tomorrow.
Yeah, we are really excited. And Aaron says, "What? This comes to you, Rosie.
Yeah.
What do you think of the drone racing esports, Rosie? There's an esport event here in Australia that will have 10,000 fans in the venue. Wow."
I don't get it. I don't get anything. I just don't get it. God bless everybody they want to do it. Just leave me out of it.
Listen, why don't you and I learn something on E? Like we could do E something and earn money now. And you know what? We're going to be doing some things coming up shortly. We'll be making an announcement very soon about a big event we're all going to do together to bring back some excitement and raise a little bit of money for some of our causes. Hey, listen, the trade been done officially. Aaron Kuzak says it, and Val says no. All right.
I guess he's coming out of trade is not final as of yet, Val says. But hey, listen, if they're going to get the rights to Gronkowski, they must know that he's willing to come out of retirement. So,
we'll know it tomorrow, Paul. When we get together, we will know it.
Looking forward to finding out when our 50th show is, man. That's a landmark.
I'm going to start counting them up.
All righty.
See you, kid.
See ya.
You've been watching Gouche Live, featuring Paul Rosen, brought to you by those good people at the Hockey News.
And the great people at Christian Hockey.
We forgot to ask Dave if he uses a Christian stick.
Yeah, we did.
We'll do it. We'll do it next time on our roundtable.
Yep, with Andre Lacroix.
See you, bro.